Well, welcome to a new Dave's Classic Garage Tours video and another visit to Northern Modern and Classic. You've got a few moments and a 1 in 3 chance to guess which model Datsun Roadster this is. So let's get straight down to it. Over to Ruben.
Originally this was a 1500, this car, yeah. It has an SR20 Nissan engine in it now, this one. So it is a 2 litre S13 Silvia. Yeah.
Right, oh
yeah.
wow, crikey, oh, Restomodded up.
Yes, yeah. And it also has the corresponding gearbox, 5-speed box out of the Silvia, and
Wow, okay.
we're putting Silvia discs on it, on the front at least.
Yeah, so tell me, how did it come in, what's been done and what's to do?
This one, a very good mate of mine owns this. It was painted and the bodywork was done prior to it coming here. So there's a little bit that we're behind with as far as where things are going and alterations that we probably would have liked to make in the first place, but we're sort of working around that.
Right, okay.
So fundamentally, we're sort of just doing the Restomod thing just to the mechanicals. Outside of that, we want it to look more or less as a standard Datsun. Sort of, yeah. I mean, the colour's not a factory Datsun colour, it's actually a Porsche colour. Right. But all the instruments will be standard, all that sort of stuff. So basically it should look more or less like an original Datsun.
Yeah. And these are actually big time races in Australia, weren't they?
Yeah, there's still a couple that get around in Group S in those circles. Yeah, they obviously lend themselves to that a bit, and there's quite a few really good specialists around for these cars, yeah.
Right, well, you don't see that kind of modification much on its British competition over there.
No, you don't.
No,
you don't.
And this would be from an S13, you said, didn't
Yes, that's right, yeah.
So what were years between?
Again, don't quote me on it, but very late 80s, early 90s, yeah. But this engine, the SR20, had a very long run, sort of until the early 2000s, so, yeah.
Well, this is the classic, drift machines.
Yes, yep, well known for that.
Drifting in this one, do you think?
Probably not, although you could.
Yeah. What makes this engine so popular?
It's quite light and compact, makes very good power for its capacity. Parts are very abundant. It sort of ticks all those boxes. Yeah, just a very sort of modular, easy engine. We've done some basic stuff to it. It's not at all modified internally, but as you can see, running a Haltech EFI hardware throttles, R35 GTR coils, had an exhaust system made for it, radiator made for it, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, internally standard at the moment. But if that needs to change for whatever reason, all the sort of ancillary stuff's there and done, so easy to make those adjustments.
And what sort of time scale is this?
It's a $1 million question, isn't it?
It's not hopeful for the mate, is it, when it's a mate's job?
He pays, so yeah, he pays, so it happens. Look, it's realistically, I'd like to see it moving under its own power by the end of this year. Right, and then, obviously it needs to be trimmed and have body trim put on it, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I'd say by and large, it should mostly be done by the end of the year. Right, okay. I think that's a realistic time frame.
Sure. It's going to look spectacular.
Yes. It's yeah, as you can see underneath, it's all very much concourse sort of stuff as much as we can. I'm no Datsun expert, but we're doing what we can here, and like I said, trying to Restomod it without going too crazy.
And will it be a show car or something you'll date?
No, it's something that'll get used a fair bit. It's certainly not being built as a show car, but just as something that's built well and easy to use. That's the other thing with this car. We're trying to make it so it is actually nice to drive and easy to drive too. So yeah, it will be used.
Yeah. And in the way of the 1500s mechanicals, I don't think there's nothing left of that, presumably?
Not really. It does still have a Datsun diff in it, but that is a slightly bigger one out of a slightly later car. But outside of that, front suspension's Datsun. It's really just the engine and gearbox that are later model stuff, yeah.
The 1500's the early one, and then...
Yes, yeah, it's quite an early car, this.
3 iteration, wasn't it?
15, 16 and a 2 litre, yeah. And this car originally actually had... again, I'm not too up on the Datsun sort of model year stuff, but it did actually have a transverse seat going this way as original. Fortunately, that's long gone, but yeah, sort of funny little feature of these very early Roadsters.
So how's that space going to be utilised now? Just
More or less as a sort of parcel shelf, yeah, because it doesn't have the most substantial boot in the world. So, again, yeah, with the idea of this car being used regularly, that should be a handy space. Sure. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thank you. On to the next. So, plenty of these still knocking around.
Yes.
Great graphics.
Absolutely.
So where do we stand yourself on the great Land Rover Defender stroke Land Cruiser?
Oh, look, I'm definitely in the Land Cruiser camp, that's for sure. I think they're objectively a better car, but, everyone has their own opinion on that. That's mine. But no, look, these are a great car. I think this one's really testament to that. 61, this 61. One, yeah.
Oh, right. That's early to mid 80s, yeah?
Yes, spot on. Yeah.
So, what did this come in?
Unfortunately, this one had an overheating episode, and which was looked at by someone else, and it's hard to say for sure. I believe they misdiagnosed it. I came in here and worked out the thermostat was stuck closed. Unfortunately, by that point, damage had been done. So now it's turned into a full engine rebuild. Right. So, look, it's done 300 and something thousand Ks, so it was one of those things. Realistically, maybe we could have pulled the head off it, but it's just a bit beyond the pale of just doing a quick head job on something like this. So, yeah. Doing it right, and it should do many more hundreds of thousands of Ks. So yeah.
Body-wise, it's all still up together.
Yeah, it's really good in the body. This car, I have not seen any rust, which is a bit unusual for these. Yeah, look, it's just a really good, honest, original car.
Yeah, and well used in the sense of now, prior to the engine.
Yeah.
Overheating, was that a sort of a daily?
Not a daily, but again, it did get used. Bit of towing, lots of general sort of hauling stuff in the back, and it does get used, this car, and it will again, yeah.
The seats are immaculate.
Yes.
A little bit of a tear over on that side.
But, look, for its age, it's pretty good, really.
How this beat Land Rover into the dust, didn't it, in the Australian market?
Yes, yeah.
And these come out.
Absolutely, and for good reason.
Well, the guys down at Series Magic might have something.
I know. No, look, they have their place. They all do.
Well, they're certainly stylish.
Yes. And look, so as I said, it's out for an engine rebuild. Not really in for anything else, but. While it is here and while we're doing that, we're also going to, I've had the turbo rebuilt and high flowed. And we'll put an exhaust system on it just to help it breathe a bit and keep the exhaust gas temperatures down. But we're not going to make stupid power with it, just to make it a little bit better when you're towing and hauling things around, because they are, it's a big engine and they're reasonably torquey, but they're still fairly slow. Sure. If we can help that a little bit, that'll be a good result. Yes, good old TE. Yeah. This one's a bit of a work in progress, as you can see.
I'm just looking jealously at that top of that dashboard. You got one in there. That's about it.
It's a rare sight, that dash. That's for sure. Yes. But this one's had a bunch of rust work done on it, so it's sort of just awaiting me reassembling it, and that'll more or less be it. And any other sort of little mechanical things we come across in that process. But by and large, quite a good solid car now.
Yeah. This was done by our man, the rust work down next around the road?
Yes, we can thank Gons for this one. It's all sorted and done properly.
This is a 280, is it?
Yeah, 280, yeah.
No trouble around the...
No, I think there's a tiny little speck in the sunroof somewhere that we've got to sort out, but all the major stuff's been done. And likewise, it'll end up with some trim in here and there, I believe. So be a good sort of honest-ish car and bit of patina. So we like that when it works.
All right. So and then we got a what is this? A Mark II.
Yeah, Mark II, good old Mark II.
Mr. Morse.
Yes.
Inspector Morse.
This one's in need of quite a lot of work.
Right.
It's unfortunately was stored outside for a long time, which has taken effect. So yeah, again, sort out the rust in it. It may or may not get painted, but yeah, certainly structural rust, get it going mechanically. Interior needs to be done, but again, this might be a little bit on the patinaed side.
Right. But yeah, I mean, it's not a couple of bobs there and whatever, but
yeah, it's
these, you know, if it's the original paint, you reckon, or
it's the original colour, but I doubt it's the original paint. Yeah.
is it? Oh, well, I don't know. You got the old crack, yeah. Maybe.
But yeah, it's got rust a bit in the floors, inner sills, outer sills, all that sort of stuff.
Right.
So
There's quite a bit to do.
that'll get sorted, and then we'll see where we end up. But realistically, I think it'll probably look more or less as it is, but just not have any horrible structural rust.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll sort it out mechanically.
Right. And it's long-term for you, or?
Yeah, it will be. It will be.
And parts-wise for this, the majority, you'll be sending off back to the UK for requirements only?
Probably a lot of it, the panel stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get a lot of sort of consumable stuff here locally, but we'll see. I've sort of yet to cross that bridge to a large extent.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, okay. And so you've been familiar with having worked on one or two of these, the Jaguar?
Yeah, very, very long time ago, yeah. So yes, left the Jaguar world for the Porsche world, and I don't regret that one iota.
Yeah.
Porsche makes sense to me. Everything's ergonomic, everything's easy to work on. It's, you know, there's nothing really greatly ergonomic about Jaguars in my experience or anything like that. So much prefer the German stuff. Big respect to the guys that do the English stuff, because it's, in my opinion, not as straightforward. But yeah. Yeah.
Well, when you got somebody pointed out to me on one engine block, you've got 5 different threads to deal with.
It could be the case, yeah. The British and their weird threads. But no, I'm happy with the metric stuff by and large.
For sure. It's another one that's would be a great sight to see one of these back on. I mean, they kind of had their time, didn't they? You know, popularity-wise.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, what, 20, 30 years ago, wouldn't it? They were.
Yeah, probably. Probably. I personally have quite a soft spot for these. I think they're a great looking car, and mechanically they actually do have a lot of good gear in it. This one in particular, it's got a 3.8 in it and a 4-speed overdrive, so it's sort of got the good bits of the era. You know, pretty quick car for their time, and good looking car and comfortable car. So yeah, certainly something I do actually have a very, very big soft spot for. But
it's the bank robber's car, wasn't it?
Yeah, supposedly so. The bank robber's favourite. Yeah, but, yeah, I can see why.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So this belongs to
the 280 GE.
Right.
Yes, M110. So the same as what's in the 280 TE. Yeah.
Yeah.
Slightly different iteration of it, but much the same. Yeah.
Do they sell large numbers of Gs over?
I don't know really how they went here. That particular car is actually a UK import.
Right. Okay.
And fortunately, it's quite a good example of a UK import. It's not very rusty underneath at all. So.
Is that recently brought over?
I don't know for sure. I'd say probably in the last 5 or 10 years, something like that. Yeah. But unfortunately, it started smoking pretty badly, and that's something that got worse over time. So we elected to give it a good freshen up. So it's all been apart, head's been done, all new chain gear stuff.
How many hours of work would you put into that?
That's a good question, actually. I'd have to look at the invoice, but no, look, there's a bit of work that goes into these. They're a really, really good engine. They do sort of just tend to go forever. Outside of the smoke, this was a pretty good running engine. It's just very leaky and a bit tired. So yeah, it's sort of had the works, rings, bearings, all that, been balanced. the K-Jet stuff's been done up. We've sort of intentionally not gone overboard with plating and painting and stuff like that, and just left it fairly original looking. Sort of didn't want it to stick out too much in the engine bay because we're not doing anything there in that respect. So it's, you know, it's sort of looks good, but it's not overboard.
And this, and yeah, for that G over here, which is already on club plates.
As you do. Again, this is a car that has been and will be used quite a lot again when it's back on the road.
You've got the checker in there? Oh,
yep.
Yeah, and so they should. So they should.
3 weeks later.
Okay, so we've already had a little look at this while it's up on the hoist, but we've moved on a couple of weeks. Where are you at now, Rueben?
As far as the car goes, we've done things like clean the engine bay, installed a new sound mat, new engine bay seals. Naturally, like everything else this age, they start to get pretty crispy.
Are they pretty good on supplying to these things, these rubbers?
Yeah, within a day. So
from Porsche or?
Yeah, they were genuine. Yeah.
Oh right.
Yeah, wow. that sort of stuff. Often find aftermarket bits don't fit so well. So
yeah, no, I've definitely seen that with a 356. The window rubbers. All splitting, and these were the top end.
Yes.
Window rubbers, and they're all splitting on the corners and whatever.
Yeah, rubber now isn't what it used to be for whatever reason.
Okay, well,
we've done that. Got some new oil lines in and stuff like that. But kept it pretty simple. It wasn't a great deal we had to do.
Yeah, but some changes on the engine, hey?
Yes.
Okay, so you want to take us through?
Probably looking a little bit different to the last time we saw it.
Yeah, this is the one that was down on the floor, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so what's happened?
So,
God, it looks beautiful.
Long story short, might have glossed over this last time, but this engine was rebuilt by a well-known shop in Sydney about 10 years ago, and it's not really done much work since. So, basically, got it down to a long motor, so the shroud off, the fan off, all the tinware off. Obviously, the K-Jet system's all gone off. Cleaned it all up.
So this is a 3
It's a 3 litre.
3 litre,
yeah. So sort of cleaned the long motor up, replaced as many seals and gaskets as sort of practically possible. And yeah, everything's been re-zinc plated, done a bit of hydroblasting, sandblasting and powder coating on all the tinware, the engine mount, etc. So yeah, sort of just tidied it up and made it look nice, and now it's got some new induction.
Yes. So there's a change in direction.
Yeah, the initial plan was to fix up some of the issues with the K-Jet system, but sort of last minute call, the owner decided to go with PMO carby, so not a bad solution to that problem.
Yeah.
But, that rapidly changed.
What did he reckon? Did he see a video and think he'd like the sound of that? Or
it was something we'd discussed, and a mutual friend had sort of discussed it with him as well, and yeah, I think between a few of us getting in his ear, this is where it ended up, so yeah.
So how much is that literally, unbolt what was on there, the K-Jet, and stick these on? What's the process?
To some extent. It is pretty simple physically fitting it. Obviously,
take us through it.
These carbs come with their own manifolds, their own linkages here and sort of towards the back of the engine as well. It's not all fitted at the moment, but get the idea.
Yeah.
So all of that stuff's supplied. So as far as that goes, it is a matter of just fitting it.
Yeah.
Did have to do a little bit of trimming around the fan shroud in some spots to get the manifolds to clear.
Right.
But other than that, it's very straightforward. It does all just bolt up.
And that came in from US,
from the States, yeah.
PMO?
Yeah.
And
they've been around for quite some time now.
Right. Is it a preferred choice when backdating?
It is, yeah. They're based off a Weber design. They use some Weber parts, so they're pretty sort of tunable, and the best bit is they're not 50 years old. So you're not spending money having them reshafted or rebushed. Just a few other things with this. We didn't quite have to go to this extent, but we've actually made a new loom for the engine.
Oh, right. Wow.
Because fortunately you can get all of these factory correct plugs and everything, so... Yeah. Being that removing K-Jet, you're also removing a whole bunch of sensors and ancillary things that you just don't need for carbies. It makes sense to simplify it and get rid of all that stuff.
Wow.
And again, everything's new, so we're not dealing with, crispy 45-year-old parts.
I was going to say, I mean, when they came off, what sort of state were they in? Are they much legs left in them? Or?
Yeah, look, usable but pretty average. Yeah, pretty average. Yeah. It doesn't really make any sense. It's not a great deal of effort to do that, so...
And what happens to that? Does he just keep it on his shelf in his garage now, or does it go on eBay?
Well, that's the other thing. The way I've done all of this, it's pretty easily reversible. So the other loom hasn't been chopped up, and things can just be swapped back over. Yeah, cool. All right, nice one. Lovely. So tell me a bit about the business. You're here on your own? Yes, yeah, more or less, yep. I've got some good subcontractors that come in occasionally, but by and large it's just myself, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Tell me a bit about your background.
I did my apprenticeship pretty much entirely on Porsche cars, 2 different workshops. Outside of that I did some Jaguar stuff prior to that, and I've had some motorsport work in the past, and I've since been here for about 4 years now, yeah.
Preferable to you in that being your own boss? And
It is, but there's pros and cons to both, that's for sure. Absolutely. It is a lot harder. It's a lot harder, yeah.
You're having to deal with numpties like me turning up.
No, of course not. No, it's all good. No, look, I wouldn't change it for the world, really. No.
You're one of the younger subset of the people I come across. What's holding people back, do you think, coming into this game? Do you think there's a lack of interest in classic cars in the younger people?
Yes and no. I think realistically most of it comes down to the pay and the working conditions, which by and large aren't very good in the industry. Yeah. That is changing, and it has been for a while, but I can see why it's not super desirable to be getting into it, yeah.
But that's the people that haven't got the balls to eventually see a chance for them to be their own boss, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, there is that, but again, that is also very difficult. There's a lot of overheads in operating a workshop. There's a lot of money to come up with in the first place to open a workshop. It's not by any means easy, but it probably is, if you're really passionate about cars, the best way to do it. Yeah. But as I said, the industry does seem to be changing. It's just a bit of a slow burn.
Changing for the good, do you think?
I think so, yeah. But
tell me about that.
I think realistically, the way the economy is and everything, people are paying more for good mechanics now.
Right.
And good mechanics aren't getting out of bed for nothing anymore.
Right.
That's a big change, which is great.
Yeah.
It's just, getting young people into it, changing that sort of outlook.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it'll take a while.
And this is the thing I have found if you've got enough money if you want a toy, which essentially, a lot of these cars are.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And you want it done right and fixed up right, worked on correctly by quality workmanship and whatever.
Yep.
You've got to pay for it.
Yeah.
But it seems to have been something that people haven't wanted to pay for in the past.
Yeah.
Or have always put up a big fight about when those cars come in and whatever.
There's a lot of horror stories and they get around. I think people often scare their friends off with their personal experiences with restorations or projects or whatever, but it doesn't have to be that way. Obviously, it's bad when that happens, but for those of us that are out there just trying to do a good job and get paid for it, it's normally pretty straightforward. Right. But there's a lot of horror stories, and I think that scares people off and changes their mentality to something that's negative about mechanics or restorations or whatever. Okay. But no matter how you swing it, it is expensive.
Sure. Thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure.
I'll let you get back to
some
work, and hopefully, if you don't mind, we'll pop down again at some point.
Yeah, we'll keep you updated. Cool. A few projects, and we'll see how we go.
Nice one. Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah. If you love this video, you're going to absolutely love this one. So click on the screen and watch that, and I'll see you in the next video.